the Fed has been using interest rate cuts and hikes, which is a tool in the arsenal. It's like one of their main tools, right? So that they can do what needs to be done with the economy and has a relatively quick effect, right? They say like an act of Congress, right? That takes forever. So the interest rate, it works a little quicker. So with that, again, having interest rates being record low for as long as they were, it really made a problem where there was we were kind of trending in that direction anyways. And again, we all saw it with housing. For anybody that kind of tuned into the housing market more in the last couple of years and maybe not so much. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion in 2008, 2009 about the housing market, right? We had that whole big crash. But, in between that time, there was also a lot going on. Like there was a lot more inventory, especially than there is right now. Interest rates were low every year. Interest rates were low. Mortgage interest rates were crazy low. And that kind of relays in a lot of places. If there's nowhere to put money, like savings money that, has to just sit and wait, right? Then people start putting it in housing. They put it a lot in the stock market too. We all know that, but you have to diversify that, portfolio and it goes other places. But nonetheless, you do look at, certain things and hope one day that you can, talk about your retirement savings. But one of the benefits, obviously, of the housing market is that it is tangible. So there is that, even when things crash, like when the stock market crashes, maybe even more than it is in the last several days, you've still got an actual tangible asset in housing. So it's often a good place to put your money. And for most of us, it provides an immediate need, which is a place to sleep, right? The Fed messes around with the interest rate and they think it's going to fix everything in the economy that needs to be fixed. But there are huge, systemic problems in the economy right now. Oil is at a record low, but we're still paying this, outrageous price at the pump. So groceries, I'm not going to get into rent because that's a whole thing, but groceries, your gas at the tank, insurance costs are actually crazy. I do have a mortgage. I have gone through so many insurance companies because the prices are so high. Car insurance, most of us need a car. Car insurance is crazy high. These are all the things that are affected. And you can't just say, well, the interest rate was cut a half a percentage point or a quarter of a percentage point, and so now everything's better. Or, hey, we're spending a lot, so we're just going to go bring that interest rate up a hair and everything will be fine. And then we're going to do it again next month. And then we're going to do it again next month. And then we're going to do it again next month because that's what happened. It was so low for so long, consistently, consecutively low. And then all of a sudden we jacked it all up, as quickly as we could without, tanking the economy. So we just talked about jobs. I mean, that's a huge part of this conversation. And it's not helping that the Fed is adjusting interest rates again. That doesn't do anything for jobs, right? Am I wrong? So, for example, when you open up a gas station in the neighborhood and say, well, we're going to create 36 jobs with this gas station. Yeah, because they're all 4 hours a piece paying minimum wage. What does that really do for anyone, right? I mean, and then you can make that argument that it's that jumping off point that, you can get a better job and you work hard and you become the manager. Okay, but how many managers are there? How many managers are there at that gas station? Probably more than one. Okay. Now, I will say that I know that Stewart's is a phenomenal place to work. I frequent Stewart's. I just had ice cream there today. I was trying to promote a great work environment. We're not talking about jobs, right? And we're not there is such thing as a guiding hand, especially when it comes to the economy, right? Can't we be encouraging good, long-term, solid, well-paid jobs that have all of the necessities? And a lot of the stuff that I've seen lately, I'm sure you've seen it, Rachel, is talking about, work-life balance. We've been talking about that a lot lately with jobs, right? And they'll come to you at these jobs and they'll say, to the employees that personally I find unnecessary. Tell me if you've seen this at all, where they're really getting into like the personal life and team building and like
Oh
they're
my
all gonna like
God. I do not want to go out for happy hour with my coworkers for forced fun.
yes,
No, do not force
mm-hmm,
me to have fun with my
mm-hmm,
coworkers.
mm-hmm.
I will choose who I want to have fun with on
Right.
my own
And it's probably
time.
not going to be someone here at this job other than us, which we met at a
Well, of
job.
course.
So that I feel like what a lot of employers are doing is taking, this is just how I feel about it. I feel like they're taking like Pizza Fridays and they're making that a reason to pay you less. And also we
Absolutely.
had to nix the 401k match this year, but we're gonna have pizza again. We need to be encouraging good jobs, right? And we need to be encouraging jobs that are giving the appropriate benefits. And I don't mean your Pizza Fridays, right?
I want to play devil's advocate with that because a lot of people are fearful of, AI taking over jobs and, these robots that are now working McDonald's and you can walk up to the kiosk now to place your order. That is great. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I may be
yeah,
the minority. I love not having to rely on a person to take my order at McDonald's. And you know why? Because now those people can go work other jobs. They don't need to work at McDonald's because now they can go work another job that they're more qualified for, whatever the reason is, but that can utilize them more because we have a computer that can do that job. They don't need to work at a
right.
cash register at McDonald's.
Labor
$20
is
an
really
hour, mind you.
right, right,
Do I think you need to make $20 an hour working at McDonald's when you're in high school? No. Do you need to make $20 when you're a single parent trying to get by? No, you need to make more than that. Like that's not like it's all
right,
in retrospect. Like minimum wage should be a livable wage. And
right,
furthermore, if you're on like unemployment or, collecting some sort of benefits, you should also qualify for like food stamps. Like there's something wrong with the system. Like
right,
A plus B does not equal C. None of it makes
right,
sense.
right, right. If the whole world tells you that 2 plus 2
Right.
equals
5.
right, yeah, exactly. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I mean, we
Right.
need to really be looking at these economic issues on a whole instead of on like some little microcosm. I actually am glad I wasn't going to bring this up because it just wasn't relevant. But the direction that we went with this, I had sent you a couple of weeks ago, but everything else that was going on was so much more outrageous that we never got a chance to talk about this. There is a local guy who is working across the aisle. He's a Republican working across the aisle. And what they are doing is they're looking at the grocery prices because they're not high. Remember, grocery prices are not that high. And what they're going to do is they're going to take a hard look at data, which, by the way, is already done. Okay, so
I
they
can
already
show
have
you the data with my receipts.
right, exactly. If you want
My
data,
bank
you
account
go.
receipts can show you. Pretty simple,
Yeah,
actually.
exactly, exactly.
Like,
So they're going to bring in more data, right? Which is probably not going to cost us taxpayers anything.
no.
And they're going to analyze the data, and then the government is going to address. They're going to be the overseer addressing grocery prices. And the articles that I have read are stating that there may be a greed factor with the grocery, people,
Sure.
grocery companies, whatever.
Yeah.
And that there's price gouging. Do we really think that it's just price gouging? That's why prices are so high.
I mean, wasn't it the CEO of Kellogg's that just said poor people need to eat more cereal? I mean, wasn't it him? I mean,
I missed
honestly,
that. Yeah.
it was like last year. Yeah, I don't need the government involved in a study that's going to take them far too long to pull off. Whereas the data that they collect will no longer be relevant by the time that they process it to give us the results.
Right. Because we know that when you get the government involved, what happens is that everything becomes efficient and outcomes are positive. That's what always happens when the government starts to control your grocery store. And you could go ahead and talk about milk prices, right? Because I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know all the details, but there is a huge debate over whether or not the price of milk should be controlled, essentially, by the government. I went to a farm that I buy milk at that has like a fridge on the side of the road, and they have to dump their milk regularly on a regular basis. There is fresh milk, cows living out in the open, and they're like, yeah, we have to throw it away. That's what happens when you create all these restrictions and you get too involved, especially from the government.
Absolutely. When you look at our regulations on food compared to regulations on food in Europe, just look at our healthcare, the numbers on cancer and everything else. Don't you think that's related to the food that we're putting in our bodies? Don't you think that's related to how it's regulated by the government? I do. I'm
Yeah,
not a conspiracy theorist by any means, but I
right.
mean,
There's a relationship.
absolutely.
And when you start messing with the open market, what are the effects of that going to be? Because you don't always know, and you can try to calculate outcomes all day long, but did we know that perfectly healthy farms and cows are going to be, throwing milk away? Like a viable product, a nutritious product for many people. Not everybody goes for cow's milk. I understand, government cheese, government cheddar. Is that the outcome that we're looking for? Do we really want your government, your local government? This is the local government. This is something that, like, Kamala Harris is talking about. This is right here in our zone. It's not just us. It's throughout the United States. But again, this is happening here. That people are, the people you're electing are saying,
Right.
we're going to help with your grocery bill. That's what they're telling you. We're going to help you with your grocery bill. What they're doing is controlling things.
And let's not forget what happened. And this is groceries we're talking about, but let's not forget, with the previous president when they started controlling our lunch foods for our children in schools because they wanted to create those healthy meals. Our kids weren't eating lunch, right? So they had to have, a certain, they had to have a vegetable, they had to have a grain, they had to have a dairy, they had to have this, that, the third. Well, that's fine and dandy. They should have a well-balanced meal. But what's more important? Having a meal.
Right.
Having a meal that they'll eat. That's more important. I look at the menu, and it's so funny. And I wonder, my kids get a free meal at their school for lunch and breakfast. They don't take advantage of breakfast, but every once in a while they'll take advantage of the lunch. And I just wonder, because the school gives free lunches to the kids, do they create these outlandish meals to try to discourage kids from getting them? Because honest to God, like some of these combinations of things for the age group, I'm just like, would you feed your, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds these things? You wouldn't in real life. Why are you feeding them that at school? But yeah, here we are. And that's where we're headed.
But there's always a back for pizza, and that's always what the kids want, right?
Exactly. Mac and cheese, pizza, chicken nuggets. It's simple. Why are we making it more complicated than that? Feed the kids and let it be.
Yep.
A full stomach is far better.
Yep, absolutely. Especially if you're talking about people that need to utilize the free lunch. And there's plenty of kids out there that need it.
That's their
and
only
there's
meal.
Kids out there that benefit from it. That maybe need is too strong a word. Maybe it's really nice relief that you can know, okay, I can send them today. They can get lunch. It's been a tough week for whatever reason, time, finances, whatever is going on. Put food in their tummies that they're gonna eat at the end of the day. That's a really good point that I had to consider because we're not at that stage over here, but I do hear a lot about it.
I mean, if you think about it in grand scheme of things, going back to, the government controlling our grocery store, the things we're buying in the grocery store, a lot of the things that we think about with our food is all like a marketing scheme that the government or we have picked up on. Like, the whole got milk thing, you talked about, the farmers and the cows. Got milk, that was really good marketing. Like that was marketing. The food pyramid, that was marketing that the government picked up on. That was never like, a scientific, like that was marketing that the government just was like, you know what? That's cool. Let's do it. We just don't question and we do it.
Right. And you know what's another term for marketing? I hesitate to say it because frankly it's a wild term, but some places they might call it propaganda. Just I'm not saying, listen, I am not anti-government. I am not anti-US. It is worth noting some of the things that are not working.
Right.
On one hand, great, it's not just the Fed interest rate, but you're addressing some of the economic realities, which are grocery prices, which I harp on, but it's phenomenal, the prices. That's not the way to do it. Saying that things are too expensive doesn't immediately mean, well, we need to all be making more, right? That's not the only solution. There's got to be multifaceted approach. There's got to be more conversation. And maybe it's not that bad and maybe it's not a big deal. But when your money's in that market, it matters, right? So we're not going to minimize it and say it's okay, right? Just ride it out. Well, maybe people can't ride it out. Maybe they're not in a position, maybe they're talking about retirement or what have you. And that's not an option. Right. I am going through the insurance runaround right now like crazy, but I know I just opened my mail. I have a couple of credit cards. For the most part, I don't use them. The one credit card that I had,
you and I are not the same.
Okay. I haven't used my one credit card that I'm going to specifically address. It's a Macy's card, by the way. Haven't used it in 4 or 5 years. Used it once for the big discount, and then that was that. And then I consolidated and paid off all my credit cards, and I have no issues with the credit cards at this point because I get so frustrated trying to pay these stupid bills. But anyways, not the point. I get the notice in the mail just recently, check your credit card. 35%.
Oof.
35% Macy's card on a card that I do not use. I'm not going to talk about my credit score, but like I saw this happening many months ago. The one credit card that I actually do use went up to like 29%. And at the time I was like, oh, 29%, that's so high. That's crazy. And then I just don't use them anymore. Not everybody's in a position where they can just not use a credit card. Emergencies happen, rotating funds happen, and the jobs market happens, and now we're seeing 35%. Macy's credit card. Not that everybody goes to Macy's anymore, but that might be back to school shopping.
Absolutely. It could be a new mattress. It could be anything.
Absolutely. Yeah. 35% is an outrageous amount to be paying.
It's funny. I just got an email from one of my credit cards saying, hey, don't forget about me. We're right here. You haven't used us in a while. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know. I don't need you. I got you in my back pocket when I do need you for an emergencies, but we're not using you just for gas and for McDonald's. Like, we're good.
Yeah. No, that's definitely another one to be looking at as we're talking about the economy, as we're talking about things that affect the economy, which, that one does speak a little more closely to interest rate. But, the Fed interest rate is not the reason why the credit card company is charging me 35%. It's not the reason why I went from $1,200 a month on my homeowner's insurance to $1,850. That's a big jump. Those are the reasons that you're seeing the economy, right? It's not the 1990s, that's for sure, where things were swell in terms of the economy. Not every moment of the day, I understand, but there's a lot to be said about what's going on with the stock market. There's a lot to be said about the duct tape, which is the Fed interest rate, which does not do everything for everyone. It's overused, frankly. That's my opinion.
You've been listening to The Last Week in History with Mollie and Rachel. Subscribe for notifications when new episodes drop each Wednesday.